Maya's alarm shrieked at 6:30 a.m., the same piercing sound that had dragged her from restless sleep for the past 3 years. She rolled over in her cramped Tokyo apartment, her body heavy despite 8 hours in bed. The digital clock's blue glow hurt her eyes, the same eyes that had stared at spreadsheets until midnight, chasing another impossible deadline at the consulting firm where she burned through 60-hour weeks. In the bathroom mirror, her reflection told the story her Instagram posts carefully avoided. Dark circles shadowed eyes that once sparkled with ambition. Her stomach pressed against the waistband of pants that fit perfectly 2 years ago. At 35, Maya felt like she was aging in dog years, watching her energy drain while her weight climbed, despite every diet trend Tokyo's wellness influencers promoted. She tried everything: keto, intermittent fasting, high-intensity interval training at a neon-lit gym in Shibuya, where trainers shouted motivation over pounding electronic beats. Each approach worked for a few weeks before her willpower cracked under the pressure of client dinners, stress eating, and the relentless pace of modern Japanese corporate life. The harder she pushed, the more her body seemed to rebel. On the train to work, Maya noticed something that had puzzled her for months. Across the aisle sat Mrs. Tanaka, a colleague from the accounting department who was at least 67 years old. Despite eating the company's catered lunches every day, rice, miso soup, small portions of fish and vegetables, Mrs. Tanaka maintained the same slender frame she'd probably had for decades. Her movements were deliberate, unhurried. Even on crowded morning trains, she seemed to carry a pocket of calm. Maya watched as Mrs. Tanaka carefully unwrapped a small ceramic container, revealing what looked like leftover rice and pickled vegetables. She ate slowly, each bite measured and mindful, while Maya gulped down a protein shake that promised to boost metabolism and burn fat fast. The irony wasn't lost on her. Here she was, armed with the latest nutrition science and expensive gym memberships, struggling with her weight and energy, while Mrs. Tanaka, who probably hadn't counted a calorie in her life, embodied the effortless health Maya desperately sought. That evening, in a moment of frustration after stepping on the scale, Maya found herself researching traditional Japanese eating habits instead of scrolling through fitness influencer posts. What she discovered challenged everything she thought she knew about weight management. Hidden in plain sight were 7 habits that Japanese people practiced unconsciously, habits so simple they seemed almost too easy to work. Yet research suggested these subtle practices could rewire metabolism, regulate hormones, and create the kind of sustainable health that gym culture promised, but rarely delivered. The first habit appeared in a documentary about centenarians in rural Japan, the practice of sitting on the floor during meals. Not casual lounging, but proper Caesar posture that engaged core muscles, improved circulation, and triggered the body's natural satiety signals. Maya looked around her apartment, furnished entirely with Western-style chairs and couches, wondering when she'd last sat on the floor for any reason. As she prepared for another night of restless sleep, Maya made a small decision that would quietly reshape her relationship with her body, her culture, and the ancient wisdom she'd been surrounded by all her life without ever truly seeing. If you've ever felt tired even after a full night of sleep or frustrated with diets that don't last, tell us in the comments which part of this story feels familiar. And stay with us for the next chapters. Maya's first attempt at floor sitting lasted exactly 12 minutes. Her legs cramped, her back ached, and she felt foolish eating rice from a regular dinner plate while perched awkwardly on her apartment's hardwood floor. But something about the position, spine naturally straight, movements slower and more deliberate, made her notice flavors she typically missed while eating, standing up in the kitchen or hunched over her laptop. The second habit emerged from watching Mrs. Tanaka's lunch routine more carefully. Every day, Mrs. Tanaka began with miso soup, letting the warm liquid settle before touching any solid food. Maya learned this wasn't just tradition. Warm soup expanded the stomach gently, triggering hormones that signaled fullness, 20 minutes later. It was metabolic timing disguised as cultural practice. At the convenience store near her office, Maya selected a simple miso soup instead of her usual coffee and pastry breakfast. The warm, salty broth felt foreign in her caffeine-dependent morning routine, but within minutes she noticed something unexpected. The frantic hunger that usually drove her to overeat at lunch seemed subdued. The third habit proved the most challenging for someone trained to multitask through every meal. Maya watched in fascination as Mrs. Tanaka chewed each bite slowly, deliberately, as if meditation and eating were the same practice. When Maya tried this at dinner, counting chews felt ridiculous until she realized she'd eaten half her usual portion and felt completely satisfied. Her friend Yuki laughed when Maya explained her experiment over drinks in Roppongi. "You're trying to become Japanese now?" Yuki teased, ordering another beer. "That old-school stuff is why our grandmothers never had fun. Life's too short to chew rice 30 times. But Yuki's dismissal couldn't explain what Maya was experiencing. After just 1 week of floor sitting, warm soup beginnings and mindful chewing, her notorious afternoon energy crashes had softened into gentle waves rather than cliff drops. The scale hadn't budged, but her jeans felt different, less tight around the waist, more comfortable through the hips. The fourth habit revealed itself through Mrs. Tanaka's tea ritual. Every afternoon at precisely 3 p.m., she prepared green tea with the same ceremony other people reserved for important meetings. Maya noticed that Mrs. Tanaka never snacked during this tea time, but she also never seemed hungry or deprived. The warm liquid, consumed mindfully, appeared to provide satisfaction that went beyond mere hydration. Maya's skeptical mind wanted explanations, so she researched the science behind these seemingly simple practices. What she found amazed her. Floor sitting increased non-exercise activity thermogenesis, burning more calories throughout the day. Warm liquids before meals enhanced satiety hormone production. Slow chewing improved digestion and allowed natural appetite regulation to function properly. These weren't diet tricks or biohacks. They were evolutionary adaptations preserved in culture, practices that worked with the body's natural intelligence, rather than fighting against it with willpower and restriction. Dr. Kimura, Maya's physician, seemed intrigued when she described her experiments during her annual checkup. "Your blood pressure is lower than last year," he noted, flipping through her chart. "Stress markers improved too. What changed?" Maya almost felt embarrassed explaining her simple habit adjustments. No dramatic diet overhaul, no punishing exercise regime, just small shifts in how she ate and sat and moved through her day. Dr. Kimura nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the most powerful medicine doesn't come in bottles," he said quietly. 3 weeks into her experiment, Maya's world shifted in ways she hadn't anticipated. The changes weren't dramatic, no Instagram transformation photos or rapid weight loss, but something fundamental had altered in her relationship with food and her own body. Mrs. Tanaka seemed to sense Maya's new awareness and began sharing small observations during their train rides. "In Kyoto, where I grew up," Mrs. Tanaka mentioned one morning, "my grandmother kept the house cool in winter. We wore layers, moved more to stay warm. She said our bodies were meant to work a little, even at rest." This casual comment introduced Maya to the fifth habit, thermal variation. Traditional Japanese homes weren't heated to the constant warmth Maya's apartment maintained. The body's response to gentle temperature changes, cool mornings, warm baths in the evening, activated brown fat, and improved metabolic flexibility. Maya began lowering her thermostat and taking evening baths, creating natural rhythms that Western comfort had erased. The sixth habit emerged organically from her daily routines. Instead of rushing through tasks, Maya found herself walking to complete errands, to the convenience store, the post office, the small market near her apartment. These weren't power walks or cardio sessions, but gentle, purposeful movement that kept her body active throughout the day. Her step counter showed more daily movement than when she'd forced herself to jog after work, but it felt effortless, integrated into life rather than imposed upon it. Yuki grew increasingly skeptical as Maya's energy improved and her clothes continued fitting better. "You're becoming obsessed," Yuki warned over lunch. "All this floor sitting and slow chewing. Next you'll be meditating in a temple." But Maya wasn't obsessing. She was noticing. The seventh and most profound habit had nothing to do with what she ate, and everything to do with how she ate. Following Mrs. Tanaka's example, she began treating meals as distinct events worthy of full attention. No phones, no television, no laptop emails. Just food, taste, and the simple act of nourishing herself. This mindful presence reduced the cortisol that had been driving her stress eating. Without the constant distraction of screens and multitasking, her body's natural hunger and satiety signals became clear again. She ate less without trying to eat less, satisfied without feeling deprived. Would you rather force yourself with willpower or redesign your environment and habits like this character is learning to do? Comment which path makes more sense to you, and share this episode with someone who needs a gentler approach to change. Dr. Kimura called with her latest lab results. "Your inflammation markers have improved significantly," he reported, "and your resting heart rate is lower. Whatever you're doing, continue." Maya felt a quiet pride that had nothing to do with external validation. For the first time in years, she felt aligned with her body rather than at war with it. The practices that had seemed foreign and overly simple were reshaping her metabolism, her stress response, and her entire relationship with self-care. But the real test was coming. Her company was launching a major project that would demand longer hours, client entertainment, and all the stress eating that had derailed her previous health efforts. Could these gentle Japanese habits survive the pressure of modern corporate demands? Mrs. Tanaka seemed to read her concerns during their morning commute. "The practices that matter most," she said quietly, "are the ones you can maintain when life becomes difficult. Otherwise, they are just hobbies." The project launch arrived like a typhoon, 14-hour days, client dinners at expensive restaurants, and the familiar pressure to prove herself through sheer endurance. Maya's old self would have abandoned all healthy habits, reverting to caffeine, convenience food, and stress as fuel. But something had shifted in her foundation. During a particularly brutal week, Maya found herself automatically reaching for the small ceramic rice bowl that had belonged to her grandmother, the same bowl Mrs. Tanaka had complimented months earlier. Even at fancy client dinners with elaborate presentations, Maya served herself modest portions and ate slowly, maintaining the rhythm that had become second nature. "Why do you eat so little?" asked Peterson, an American client, noticing Maya's restrained approach to the multi-course meal. "Don't you like the food?" Maya realized she was enjoying the food more than ever, tasting instead of consuming, satisfied rather than stuffed. The practices weren't restriction, they were refinement. Yuki finally confronted her directly after watching Maya decline after-work drinks for the third time in favor of going home for a proper bath and early sleep. "You're changing, and I don't like it," Yuki said bluntly. "You used to be fun. Now you're all zen and weird." Maya felt the sting of judgment, but also recognition. She was changing, but not in the way Yuki perceived. The old Maya had used busyness and excess as shields against feeling anything too deeply. These Japanese habits weren't making her boring, they were making her present. Mrs. Tanaka, observing Maya's steady energy despite the project stress, shared more family wisdom. "My mother called it sustainable pace," she explained. "Not fast, not slow, just consistent, like breathing." The concept resonated deeply. Maya realized that every previous diet and fitness attempt had been about speed and intensity. Lose weight fast, work out hard, push through exhaustion. The Japanese approach was about rhythm and longevity, building practices that could weather any storm. During the project's most intense phase, Maya's habit foundation proved its worth. While colleagues burned out on energy drinks and stress eating, she maintained steady energy through simple practices: warm miso soup to start difficult days, floor sitting during meals to stay connected to her body's signals, mindful chewing even during rushed lunches, and evening baths to reset her nervous system. Dr. Kimura's mid-year checkup revealed the objective truth her body had been telling her subjectively. "Your metabolic markers are better than they've been in 5 years," he reported. "Blood sugar stable, inflammation low, stress hormones balanced. This is what sustainable health looks like." Maya looked at the lab results, remembering similar papers from years past that had warned of prediabetes, chronic stress, and metabolic dysfunction. The numbers told a story of gradual healing that had nothing to do with dramatic interventions and everything to do with daily choices accumulated over time. The ceramic rice bowl sat on her kitchen counter, a small but powerful reminder of wisdom passed down through generations. It wasn't about the bowl itself, but what it represented: portion control that came from awareness rather than restriction, eating that honored both enjoyment and nourishment, and the understanding that health was built through gentle consistency, not heroic efforts. 6 months after her journey began, Maya experienced a revelation that reframed everything she thought she knew about health, discipline, and transformation. It arrived not as a dramatic moment, but as a quiet recognition during an ordinary Tuesday evening. She was preparing dinner in her apartment, moving through her now familiar ritual, lowering the temperature slightly to encourage her body's natural warmth generation, preparing warm miso soup first, setting out her grandmother's rice bowl, and clearing all devices from the dining area. As she knelt on her tatami mat, a recent addition that had replaced her dining table, Maya suddenly understood the secret that had eluded her for years. She wasn't practicing willpower anymore. She had redesigned her environment. Every previous attempt at health had relied on fighting her circumstances, forcing herself to eat less while surrounded by trigger foods, pushing through exhaustion to exercise, battling her impulses with mental strength. But these Japanese habits worked differently. They changed the architecture of choice, making healthy decisions the natural, easy path rather than the effortful one. Mrs. Tanaka's wisdom had never been about individual practices. It was about creating a life where wellness emerged organically from the structure itself. "I finally understand," Maya confided to Mrs. Tanaka the next morning. "It's not about having more discipline. It's about needing less." Mrs. Tanaka smiled with the satisfaction of a teacher whose student had grasped the essential lesson. "In Japan, we have a saying: the river doesn't force its way to the sea. It follows the easiest path. Your body is the same." This insight transformed how Maya saw her entire life. Her apartment had become a container for wellness rather than a place where willpower went to die. Cool temperatures that encouraged gentle movement, floor sitting that naturally engaged her core, warm liquids that satisfied without excess, mindful eating spaces free from digital distraction, evening bath rituals that reset her nervous system for restorative sleep. The weight loss had been gradual, 15 pounds over 6 months, but the metabolic shift felt permanent. More importantly, the constant mental battle with food had simply evaporated. She ate when hungry, stopped when satisfied, and experienced cravings as information rather than commands. Dr. Kimura reviewed her annual lab results with visible satisfaction. "Your biological age markers suggest you're aging backward," he observed. "Blood pressure optimal, inflammation minimal, stress hormones in healthy range. These changes typically require medication or extreme interventions. What you've done is remarkable." But Maya knew it wasn't remarkable. It was remarkably simple. 7 habits woven so seamlessly into daily life that they required no conscious effort. floor sitting for core activation, warm liquids for satiety, mindful chewing for digestion, thermal variation for metabolism, gentle movement throughout the day, mindful eating for hormone regulation, and environmental design that made wellness the default choice. Yuki, observing Maya's sustained transformation, finally asked the question that had been building for months. "Teach me," she said quietly over coffee. "I'm tired of being tired." 2 years later, Maya's transformation had become so integrated into her identity that she barely remembered the person who used to wage war against her own body. The changes weren't just physical, though her energy remained steady, her weight stable, and her health markers consistently optimal. The deeper shift was psychological. She had learned to trust her body's intelligence rather than override it. Mrs. Tanaka, now retired but still meeting Maya for occasional tea, reflected on the journey with characteristic wisdom. "You didn't change your body," she observed. "You remembered how to live in it." Maya's apartment had evolved into a sanctuary of sustainable practices. The tatami mats, initially awkward, now provided natural grounding. The ceramic rice bowl, once her grandmother's forgotten relic, had become the template for every meal. The temperature variations, thermal practices, and evening bath rituals created daily rhythms that supported rather than stressed her metabolism. Yuki had become an unexpected convert, implementing her own version of the 7 habits with impressive results. Their friendship had deepened through shared understanding of what real wellness required. Not heroic efforts, but patient cultivation of environment and awareness. Even Maya's colleagues began asking questions as her sustained energy and calm presence became notable in their high-stress work culture. She found herself quietly modeling a different approach, taking actual lunch breaks, eating slowly and mindfully, maintaining boundaries between work urgency and personal rhythm. Dr. Kimura used Maya's case as an example in medical conferences, discussing how cultural wisdom and modern science could collaborate rather than compete. Her transformation illustrated principles that pills and procedures couldn't replicate. The power of environmental design, the importance of nervous system regulation, and the metabolic benefits of aligning with natural rhythms rather than forcing artificial ones. During a company health seminar, Maya was asked to speak about her approach to maintaining wellness under pressure. She chose her words carefully, knowing that quick fixes and dramatic before and after stories would miss the essential point. The most powerful changes happen so slowly you don't notice them day by day, she explained. But when you look back across months and years, everything is different. Your body, your energy, your relationship with food and stress and sleep. Not because you fought harder, but because you created conditions where health became natural. As she prepared dinner that evening, Maya knelt on her tatami mat and filled her grandmother's rice bowl with simple, nourishing food. The ceramic felt warm in her hands, connecting her to generations of women who had understood what Maya was only now learning. That wellness wasn't a destination to reach through extreme effort, but a way of being that emerged from daily choices made with awareness and respect for the body's ancient wisdom. The 7 habits that had once seemed foreign now felt as natural as breathing. They had become invisible again, not through neglect, but through integration so complete that they required no conscious effort. Maya had learned to live like water, following the easiest path toward health. If this story reminded you that real transformation comes from small habits repeated over time, not from overnight fixes, subscribe to the channel, tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to start this journey with you in the next story.